Moments later, due to the deprivation of oxygen, I felt my brain literally snap in half, and I felt a large crack within my brain and a large snap. It's kind of felt like, like a lightning or thunderstorm. It was just this large crack that I felt. And slowly, as the saying goes, when my brain cracked in half or cracked open, that's when Spirit and God came in. And moments later, I was able to feel myself racing into a tunnel, into this quite familiar light. And I was going upwards and upwards to where there's no beginning, no middle, no end. The only word that I could describe it as a timeless euphoria with no limitations to how good I felt and how high I soared in that moment. It was as if I was going on the fastest roller coaster on the innermost journey within. Moments later, I became aware of my body, and I became aware that's the right side of my body, right side of my brain, which now I learned represents the creativity and the wisdom that we get, the insight that we get. I became aware of an incredibly immaculate palace that was so beautiful and bright. I almost had to shield myself from looking at it. But I was able, in this disembodied state, to look at the palace and to really hear this beautiful, high pitched angelic choir within it. And the light was so incredibly emanating. I will use the word God for convenience state, but you could use the word universe, the center of the universe, the creator of all things, whatever your vernacular describes. I've got news for you. It's pretty limiting to what it actually was. Words can be limiting, but this is the format that we have. And in that moment, I knew that I was really touching upon the centerpiece of creation itself and the pinnacle of reality, which all things emanate from, which I guess in our words we could refer to as God, but to me it was beyond any word. And then in that moment, moments later, I was able to feel myself begin to be enveloped in this beautiful, unconditional love. And I was aware of these colors. This is almost kind of like a bronze and gold kind of like colors that was flashing in front of me. You have to bear in mind that, I was still contemplating my body and being 3 years old and my parents and the life that I was going to live. And so there was an adjustment phase that was certainly happening in my NDE. So I was connected to a part of myself that was beyond my 3-year-old self. I was connected to my eternal soul, which is timeless and ageless and has an awareness beyond just our personalities that we have while we incarnate in different bodies in different ages. So I say two things could be true at the same time, that I had an awareness of myself, a 3-year-old, Jake or Jacob, but also an awareness of my eternal soul, which was even more beyond the personality and age chronologically in its developmental stage of that life that I was living. And in that instant, I was able to feel a sense of comfort in the clear recollection that all is well, was well, will be well, is the best way I could describe it. That in our lives, we're used to, as Lao Tzu would say, holding on to the past, which creates just more sadness, or bracing for the future, which creates more anxiety. But I was able to be in this timeless moment that I know the other side is nonlinear, and on the other side, all things are perfect just as they are, and you're enveloped in an incredible unconditional love that looks up at you, not down at you, and sees the real you as this beautiful, divine, spiritual being forever connected to the divine. And in that instant, a couple moments later, I was aware of myself going down on the slide, and I was able to the right and to the left side of me to see my own spirit guides. They were incredibly immaculately beautiful as well as familiar. There was a male and female guide that I saw, and I just felt a sense of embarrassment that I forgot that they were with me this whole time, my guardian angels and spirit guides. But I was able to see them to the sides of me, and they helped my body go down the slide. And moments later, I became aware of all the people that I went to the park and the playground that day, and they were surrounding my body. And so my body was lying on the ground, and all the people were calling to me. They're saying, Jake, get up, Jake, get up. And I wanted to just shake them and tell them that I was totally fine. But it was a little bit of torture because I could see them, but they were looking at my body and recognized that my body was not me. It was just a vehicle of the soul, of my soul's expression. And I was aware of the people that were with me in the park, but I became aware of who they really are. Much like, God in the spirit realm was able to see the real me, I was able to see their own spirits beyond their personalities, beyond their presentations or limitations. And it was incredibly divine. I was able to see their auric fields. I was able to be aware of who they are even beyond this lifetime and what some of their, as we say, karma and dharma is. And I just kind of got them like an X-ray of their souls. Um, and then slowly I saw right above my hovering body was an endless array of angels, or as I refer to it in Life After Breath, of Sea of Angels, which is my first book. And it was a sea of angels that was literally floating right above me. And so to describe it, it's kind of like you're tuning into a radio station, but on the other side, you tune up that station just a little bit, and you have all these things that are right here around us, protecting us and with us at all times that we can't see with the physical eyes, but they are there. And when I was looking at the angels, they were quite distinguished and different from the spirit guides. For instance, the spirit guides, or the guardian angels, were really concerned about me. We had a connection, and it was very nuclear. Whereas the angels that I saw, they were floating, sending energy, and almost looked uniformal in their presentation. They were quite youthful, and they were like a gold and bronze kind of color, and it's that same kind of color that I saw earlier on. And I almost had to pinch myself because it just was this beautiful filter of angels, and I was almost, it felt familiar to my spirit, but to my 3-year-old self, it was an adjustment to see all these beautiful angelic beings. But then I just got familiarized with it, and I just remembered that, okay, this is home. I'm here now. Then after looking at these angels, I just saw that they were here to just serve and send energy, and they had no identities. They were just here as beings and conduits of just love and protection and guidance to the earth plane. They had no concept of taken. They were just here to give. And to me, that's the closest embodiment of God itself, is to here to love, serve, and remember, and to give over love, light, and peace to all that we encounter. And that my name was Jacob. For those of you familiar, Jacob was a biblical individual. It was a biblical man who was in Genesis in the Bible in the Old Testament, and he, fled from his brother Esau. And while he was fleeing, he had a dream of the angels going up and down onto the ladder. And so the irony, synchronicity, and the clear understanding, I think that your name tells your potential or who you could be, is true with my life. And this inspired me to publish my second book. My first book is called Life After Breath, and my second book is called The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. So similar to Jacob, in a playground into a ladder, I had my near-death experience. And so what I walked into in my near-death experience was not in my control, but what I walked out of it, the meaning behind it, is my responsibility. And it's my hope that many listeners can understand the same understanding, that we walk into this life and what happens to us isn't necessarily in our control, but how we're able to find meaning from it, the lessons that we're able to have from it, the growth that we come from it, becomes a measure of the meaning that we have within our lives and the purpose that we have within our lives. And so it's my hope that you all got some insight, some meaning, and some of this stuff was familiar. I believe each and every one of you are sitting here today because of familiarity. You're here today listening because there's a part of you, whether you had a near-death experience, shared-death experience, spiritual transformative experience, or none of the above, there's a part of you from first-hand encounters that speaks very closely to you. So it's my hope that this experience will allow you to take ownership of yourself, your life experience, so that this world isn't writing your story, but you could write one from a much higher vantage point. Keep on writing, keep on living, keep on searching, and keep on finding the deep meaning within. And don't be afraid to lose yourself, because sometimes to find yourself, you have to be willing to lose yourself. I know that happened to me. I'm living proof of that. I'm losing my own body and that old self that I had. But I was able to gain a whole new perspective within time, within life. You can too. So I wish you all love, peace, grace, and thank you for joining me here today. Let's stay in touch and keep on listening to these encounters that can change lives. Believe me. Thank you.